Hey everyone, thanks for coming back for another segment of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. Kim is to my right, Mac is to my left, and the guy in the middle is TJ. In this one, I'd like to ask a question rhetorically. How low can a new low go if a new low can go lower? You know? And to use one of Mac's favorite words, I have a litany of scenarios, situations, events, which kind of come across, I think of as a new low with the Democrats, the leftists, the progressives, however you choose to define those on the other side of the aisle. We're going to do a slideshow here. But before I start, once again, I have to say how it just grinds me to no end that you got these highbrow Republicans, when you consider some of these new lows that these Democrats are willing to stoop to, and then these high-road, highbrow Republicans out of principle are going to vote with them. It's just, it just makes, as far as I'm concerned, all the more pathetic. So the first one we're going to show is the infamous Black Lives Matter painted on the street in front of Trump Tower.
Why weren't they arrested for graffiti?
Well, because the mayor said it was okay.
I think they got permits.
Yeah. In fact, de Blasio was seen out there helping him at one point, I believe. Next, we got in Martinez, California, the couple that painted over the BLM on the street. They were charged with a hate crime, and there's a technicality here which I am compelled to mention. The BLM was painted on the street with the permission of the city.
Permit was issued.
A
right.
permit was issued, and so when this couple did this, they were violating something sanctioned by the city.
It's essentially vandalism, which I would tell you they are guilty of.
So, the whole thing sucks.
I don't think they should be going, the cities should not be going towards one group of people. I mean, I think that is a problem in itself, which I think could probably go to a court case also.
Yeah, separation of race and state.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, what's the difference between religion? I mean,
there isn't one.
I mean, they're doing the same thing, but yet they're keeping our religion out, but yet they're letting this group actively do whatever they want to, essentially.
So basically, the moral of the story here, you might want to make sure you're not in violation of a city ordinance before you up and start painting over BLM.
Yeah.
That's the moral of this story, I thought. Next, let's see. Oh, I just want to remind everyone I'm not over the whole Easter lily thing.
Nor should you be.
Okay.
We should all be enraged about the
Easter lilies.
The infamous Easter lily incident.
I'm not over that yet. Okay. I'm not going to let that one go. The statues. You know, for some time now, they've been talking about how the statues depicted evil forefathers, since some of them were slave owners, and then it kind of went with Columbus. In this one here, that is I believe that's a Confederate soldier being pulled down. Okay, a Confederate general of some sort, and I felt like I was in a moral dilemma because, they were on the wrong side, but I'm just not, I wasn't comfortable with them tearing down the...
Erase history and you will repeat history.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the statement. The other thing is they're not pulling down just Confederate. They're pulling down Lincoln statues. They're pulling down all sorts of other statues.
Well, they're tearing up what doesn't belong to them.
Well, in this one, Christopher Columbus, I think this was in Baltimore, Christopher Columbus statue was being torn down. And I think when you think back on history, and I kind of studied it as a hobby of mine, we're talking about a individual person who was ahead of his time. How he bravely went against conventional wisdom and sailed west. You know,
At what they believed was the risk of their life.
yeah, and that seems to be glossed over, and it just kind of saddens me.
I just wonder what they would feel like if they tore down Martin Luther King statues.
Well, that may happen yet. Don't
You
rule
know?
that out.
And by
Because
the way,
you're not seeing that. You're seeing more Obama statues. What happens if they start tearing down Obama statues?
Well, you can
'Cause-
find out after I do it.
yeah.
because they're talking about tearing down Trump statues.
I didn't know there were any,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, just something to keep in mind. In Baltimore, that statue was taken down. This one was in another city, so it's like the modus operandi, as I like to say.
And you know what? Get a dictionary and look up the word genocide because you're misusing it constantly.
But in any event, let's go to the next. Abraham Lincoln. What is difficult to see in this picture, and I'm gonna circle it here. Someone managed to put some paint right there at the Lincoln Memorial, and I think there was a little bit more at the base too. But once this began, that's when you knew it was out of hand. It was completely out of control.
It wasn't just about Confederate.
Yeah, it was
Slave
beyond
owners. It's beyond that now. It's destroy all history.
Yeah. And the next one here, here's another one that they want to take down. And the issue here is with the black slave at the feet of Abraham Lincoln. It has to do with Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation,
Right.
and how I get the impression the downtrodden being lifted up, but
Right.
there I go reading into something, you know.
Well, it's a piece of art, and you can interpret art in a lot of ways, anyway, in a lot of instances, rather, any way you want.
This was the ultimate low. And actually, this is a statue of Frederick Douglass, and if you're familiar with Frederick Douglass, he was a black abolitionist. And this particular statue, it was not made of concrete, so it was pretty easily accomplished. But this particular statue was torn off at the base and thrown in the Genesee River, I believe, if I can find it here. I'm getting ahead of my notes.
Was that here in Michigan?
No.
Oh.
No.
Because we have a Genesee County in Michigan, just to the north of us.
Rochester, New York. This was in Rochester, New York, where this statue was thrown into the Genesee River. All right. Next. This is the father of the 8-year-old girl that was shot in Atlanta. Okay. And I guess the new low for this was, if you're familiar with the circumstances, they had set up a barricade at the Wendy's, and I guess the mother, for whatever reason, tried to turn around beyond the barricade, and she disrespected those guarding the barricade, so then they had to put a cap in her ass, and in doing so killed the daughter. And basically, I heard it said that even though it was black on black, it was still because of systemic racism that this even occurred. And I thought,
That's ridiculous.
It goes to what I said. There is no low too low for these people.
Putting up a barricade and barricading people out of property.
I heard it was on an exit ramp to the freeway, actually, is what I heard. But
Okay, might have been that, but it was where the Wendy's
yeah,
was.
and she had no choice but to back up.
Also, this is from Minnesota, and the reason why I showed this picture is Minnesota was applying to the federal government for relief in light of the Black Lives Matter rioting, and the feds have turned them down. They have said no. Well, so far.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say it might not change next week or
the
something?
police chief, the governor, and the mayor of that town gave them open thing to catch everything on fire and ruin it.
Yep.
So it's on them.
Well, and
They can
and
do
that's
it.
why they were denied.
They can fix
That's-
it themselves.
And I say at this time, I mean, the way things change at the drop of a dime, who knows? I was compelled to post this. As you can see, this is one of those like police trailers that you might see up on the side of the road. and the police put up, and it said the safety of, and it's hard to see the one letter there, but the safety of all lives matter. It turned into a really big deal. This was in the city of Melrose, Massachusetts. The mayor, Paul Brodeur, apologized and made the police take this down.
Ridiculous.
Okay.
All lives do matter.
So,
Or they should.
anyways,
Especially on a safety for a road sign. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Give me a break. You know, they're becoming too sensitive. Too sensitive about everything.
this one especially saddened me. This is a 9/11 memorial in Washington, New York. They had 5 firefighters that replied or responded to the city of New York on 9/11, and they lost their lives. And this was a memorial in remembrance of the 5 firefighters who died. And it too has recently been vandalized in all the chaos that's been playing out. How can this not be a new low?
This is an example of something Kim said earlier. This isn't about Confederacy or white supremacy or having owned slaves. This is about erasing our history and their
destroying our country.
Insatiable thirst for destruction.
All right, next one. I found this one very interesting. This was a pamphlet that was put out, and they have not. I've done some research, and I have yet to find out the Army, and they didn't say whether or not it was an Army employee or an Army officer. You know what? They ain't saying. But someone connected to the Army was putting out this pamphlet, and the Army had to quick pull it. And the reason why they had to quick pull it is in looking at the triangle you see toward the top of black line. Above the black line is overt white supremacy, and below the black line is covert white supremacy. Well, a few lines below the black line, and I will circle it here. It says "Make America Great Again." The President Trump slogan, "Make America Great Again." And when the Army went, someone tried to sneak it in there clearly because, who's going to read all of this?
Right.
Who's going to read all of this? But thank goodness someone did, and they said, "Ooh, that's got to get pulled." And to the Army's credit, it was pulled immediately. But it's really unfortunate that someone in the Army tried to pull this off.
Well, you know as well as I do, better than I do, I would tell you that not everyone serves in the military is a hero. Sorry,
Yeah.
but they're not.
When they got wind of the "Make America Great Again" was per this flyer here.
Major Hassan would be an example.
But in any event, I thought this was another new low. All right.
No doubt.
Okay, I had to show this couple here. The latest, they raided his home and took his guns.
Yes, I heard that.
Now you know what? And it's already been touched on. The property was trespassed, vandalized, and you know what? If they hadn't have been standing there the way they were, who knows what else would have happened to their property?
Or them.
But because they did this, and the irony here is, I don't know how true this is, but the irony here is that they had donated to some Democrats.
They were both lawyers, from what I heard.
Yes.
I heard an explanation of that from him on someone's talk show. He said that he donated to he's not a leftist. He's a Republican, actually, by his statements. That he donated to, like, let's say Kim were running, God forbid, as a Democrat. So, Kim's our friend. We want her to get elected, so we throw in some money to Kim's campaign.
Yeah.
That's what he did for friends who were
Well,
Democrats.
Wasn't he supporting as a lawyer some of the Black Lives Matters people
That
that
I
were in
didn't hear.
jail?
I didn't hear that, but
I suspect he'll cease those efforts. But yeah, that particular rifle, that particular AR, I am certain was one of the guns seized.
yeah. And if you're going to go to war with people, wear shoes.
Yeah.
And hold the gun.
On the last list, and I mentioned this one with with mixed feelings here because I found something out that really made me uncomfortable. USC in California, they had a John Wayne exhibit in honor of John Wayne, and it is it looks like it's going to be dismantled, taken down, because it appears that in 1971 he said things that probably shouldn't have been said. I researched multiple sites, and they all seem to concur, I'll say. While he doesn't condone slavery, he made the comment that they needed to be, black people needed to be better educated before they began to vote. Why someone would say that in 1971, I don't know. You know what? This is where history can come back to bite you in the rear.
Right.
You know, and he made some comments about the Native American Indians and how the Europeans came and took their land. And he while he didn't condemn it, he actually made a neutral statement. But because he didn't condemn it, well, that just added to the fact that he's a really bad person. So now his entire exhibit at USC
He needs to be forgotten. All his films need to be burned.
Yeah.
He needs to be erased from history.
They're trying to erase everyone.
Yeah,
and they'll
Everyone.
erase us eventually.
so
Or they'll try.
They'll try.
this was just a list of things that I had that I have noticed here in the last week that, you know, with the Democrats, there really is no limit as to how low they'll go.
By any means necessary, as it was once said.
You know, they're the ultimate pragmatists, and I've been beating that drum too. You know, any final thoughts, guys?
They sicken me.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's a wrap. As we say here at the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.